All right, I've been meaning to do a power supply project, and in my mind, I've been fighting whether to make it very in-depth or just to show you enough that if you bring something to the party and you already know certain things, uh, it'll help. I'm going to show you a transformer that you should buy at least one of and do some experiments. Now, when you're into tubes, you might find transformers on different chassis and that. And here's a typical one. This is about 60 milliamps at high voltage. Now, if you're building a command radio power supply, 60 milliamps is fine. But if you want to run a BC348, the larger military radios, you're going to need about 90 milliamps. And just look at the dynamotor. It tells you right on there how many milliamps the dynamotor puts out. Well, your power supply has to do basically the same thing. Now, the windings you'll find on a transformer. This is a basic. It was probably a record player transformer. All right, first you find two black wires. That's where the primary 110 to 120 come in. All right, they're out of the way. There's two green wires. Now let me explain what the two green wires are. That's a 5-volt winding, and that goes separately to the 5U4 or 5Y3, I believe it is. And that's so if anything happens in the high voltage power supply, the short of the high voltage will only burn out the 5Y3 or the 5U4. It won't burn out all the other tubes. So the rectifier tube, if you use a tube, has its own filament supply, and that's to prevent a disaster. Sometimes during power up, a 5Y3 or 5Y3 or 5U4 could have a short, heater to cathode short, and the cathode is got the high voltage on it. And then when that does that, normally it burns itself out. But if you had the other tubes in the radio on the same line for the filament, you would lose all your tubes. That's why on a lot of transformers, you'll see this 5-volt. It's green wires. Now, you'll find a pair of yellow wires. They're usually 6.3. You can find one that's 12.6, 6.3, 6.3 and 12.6. All right. Well, this is I know for sure this is a 6-volt winding. So if you want to run a radio that's got 12-volt filaments, this won't do it for you. And then you have three other wires: a red, and a red yellow. It's got stripes. This is the center tap, and this goes to your rectifier tube. It's full wave. All right. There's two diodes inside the 5U4 or 5Y3. So that's what this is. Now, you can also bump into transformers that came out just after they started making selenium rectifiers, not silicon, selenium. They're the ones with the fins. So you'll find two black wires for the 110. You'll find now these are darker, but these were probably I don't know what color at one time. Well, they changed color, but these are your filament, and then these are high voltage, three wires for full wave. But you would use two selenium rectifiers in this circuit. They're the ones with the fins. You may have never noticed them. Now you can go modern, buy a modern transformer, and I'm going to tell you right now, this one here has the 5-volt winding on it for the filament of the 5Y3, 5U4. It's got high voltage windings. I believe it's got three. Yeah, it's got three. I hope it's got three. Yeah, it's got two red and an orange. The orange is the center tap, and then your black wires are over here on this side. So it does the filament for the rectifier. And this is a modern transformer. This was just made. And Here's the windings here. You can move. There's a couple taps you can choose, so you can have 6.3 or 12.6. But why don't I use these? Well, they're heavy, they're big, and they're $75. And that's without shipping. That's why. So I came up with the idea after searching and realizing there were people using this type of transformer. Let me slide over here, make sure it's not plugged in. All right, this is an N68X. It's a triad. Triad? We'll call it Triad as the company. Well, anyway, if you put the number in, you'll come up with this. Now, this is an isolation transformer. And this can isolate 110 or 120 to 120 just by changing the taps over here. And this is for the United States. So, well, for tube use, it's United States because we're going to use the 220 to drive tube circuits. Here's two red wires. That's the input for the 110. Normally they're black, but in this case, they're red. And here's a white center tap. This goes to ground. This is the shield of the transformer. Now, what makes this such a good isolation transformer? They wound the windings. There's 3 windings. They wound them together. 2 windings, when you wind them together, it's called bifilar. I guess this would be called trifilar. Most transformers, inside they wind the 110 winding, and then on top they wind the high voltage winding, and then finally the filament winding. And each winding is further from the core, so the efficiency goes way down. By winding the windings together, you get high efficiency. So you can take 110, put it into here, and it'll come out on over on this side as 220. And there's 4 wires, so you can hook the 2 pair in parallel and get a heavy-duty 110. And using a full wave bridge, you'll get 130 volts. All right. So, and just one winding, one pair, you'll get 130 volts, but not as much current. You see, there's certain things you have to understand before you watch my video. But if you hook these 2 windings, there's two windings, 4 wires, you hook them in series, and on the diagram they show phasing dots. With a full wave bridge, you get 240 volts. And that would be used for a BC348. All right? Now, if you wire them up a certain way, and you can make it a full wave just using 2 diodes, you'll get 150 volts. So this transformer gives you the option of 130, 150, and 240 volts. Now, the reason I'm keeping this video short is I went and did a video on using this transformer in the BC348. You got to go look for it. It's all one video. It shows me making the metal base, putting the terminals on, putting the 2 transformers in, wiring it up using a full wave bridge, and then putting it in the radio. Now, what happened was, that's a year and a half ago, somebody spotted that, and now they have a video similar to what I'm doing right now. So I have to make mine a little bit different, my video. And I want my video for a person that knows what they're doing. But they didn't know this transformer existed. Now, one more time, it's N68X. And I should put my glasses on, double check, because I'm dyslexic. And I don't like to do a video and then find out I misspoke. N68X. All right, this is an isolation transformer, high efficiency. So you could, if you did have a 220 volt source AC, you could step it down to 110. And the amount of current, if these 2 windings are put in series for the to make a BC348, you got about 200 milliamps of current. This little transformer will put out more high voltage with current than this thing will. And why? Because this has this one here has windings in it for the filament and filament of all the tubes, also filament of the rectifier tube. This only has the high voltage. So what's really nice is you can use this with a filament transformer of your choice, and you mount them like that. And that's what the guy didn't figure it out. He built my power supply on a board rather than put it on a piece of metal to go into BC348. But I just happened to put in the number of the transformer, and I noticed it came up with a YouTube video, and I'm like, and I click on it, and I could tell the smart people steal. And I did a bunch of BC348 videos step by step, and then you have a guy come along, and he does it, but he cuts corners, he puts mistakes, and I don't want to go into it. But what I do is I do things in a certain way, and I also tell you I want you to understand what the hell you're doing. If I show you how to just make a power supply, I have had people put wires in the wrong place, and then they keep asking me, and then finally they realize they made a mistake. You know, I'm showing you a thing going together step by step. But if you use this transformer, like in a BC348, get the transformer made by Triad that does 24 volts, 25 volts AC, and use that so you don't have to modify the BC348. Because there are people that rewire radios so they can use a cheaper transformer. And I had some command radios that were wired for 6 volts. It's very annoying. And the reason they did was they had one of these things. These were very common on record players, small guitar amplifiers. So in other words, you rewire the radio rather than get the correct transformer. And I'm trying to tell you, you have 3 options. You got 130 volts using one phase of the output, 120, but you could also parallel them. So you get 130 using a full wave bridge. If you wire these outputs up for full wave using 2 diodes, you get 150. Then you leave them wired that way in series, and you get 240 volts. And that should be enough for the person I'm shooting for. A lot of people buy a BC348 or a command radio, and they start buying parts, and they never finish it. And I'm doing videos for the person that's got one and is working on it, and they look at it and it gives them confidence. And it really ruined my day, because remember, I ordered this transformer, and the guy sent me the wrong one. And I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. And then I found someone that already got it. See, there are people that they go on other people's web videos, and they look at them, and then they get content from it. And I'm actually trying to achieve something, and those guys aren't. They just need more content. And then I had some guy put an advertisement in my thing for another person. I went and looked at the video. It was hard. The things he was saying, you know, I don't want to go into it. I don't know. I'm trying not to do that anymore. But he's not doing you any favors. He's looking for content. And he does have a lot of viewers. Okay? He does. And he's got a lot of money. And he probably gets his income from YouTube. And I'm not showing what I'm doing. I'm showing you what I'm doing. And I got frazzled when the guy sent me the wrong transformer, because I'm working on this Navy radio, and nothing seems to come on time. I ordered 2 more. I ordered lugs and some capacitors, and tomorrow will be 1 week, and they're coming tomorrow. So I've tried different dealers. It's all the same thing. They don't ship right away. If they do, it's rare now. Years ago on eBay, if you ordered electronic parts, they were shipped within a day. And then you got them before a week was over. So if you order them on Monday, you had them by Friday. Not anymore. A full week now when you order something. And you watch it. The guy, he cuts a label using the electronic system. And then the label, the tracking system says waiting for customer, waiting for customer. Label's been made, but they're waiting for this to get the product. And that's what you'll find. And then, of course, I told you in one of the videos, there's always a storm going across the country. Well, this week, and there's another storm coming. That seems, every time I order parts, this is what happens. During the summer, same thing. You got flooding. Because the parts come from California now, or China. I stay away from China. We got the trade wars going on. I don't need that nonsense. But most of the electronic parts now are coming out of California because that's where everything's being scrapped. And it takes a full week to get from California, the way they ship it, by the time they get to the post office, or the post office picks it up. But I just wanted to show you, if you're into making supplies, you should buy one of these transformers. And I said this white wire is a shield, and this goes to ground. And it'll work without it. You don't have to ground it, but probably for the longevity of the transformer, and it does keep probably some type of noise from going from the AC line into the secondary. It probably does do something. But this is a transformer that's made to turn 220 into 110, and you can also work backwards. You can put 110 into it and get 220, or you can double up the wires and get 120 at more current. This thing, the maximum is 400 and something milliamps at 110 or 115, 120, and then 435 milliamps. And then if you go series on this side for 220, it'll be about 200 milliamps, and that's plenty for a BC348. That's why I used it. And there's a whole video. There's a couple videos mentioning this. Then all of a sudden, I actually did editing. I did step by step. You'll see me cutting the metal. I cut the piece of metal out. I show you where the holes are. I show you fitting it into the BC348. Then I show you the transformers going on. And then I think on that one, I built I put the rectifiers in that underneath, because there is a space on the BC348 below that shelf. And that was my last power supply. Last power supply for a BC348. I'm burping. I went out for a walk. Everything's iced up. And this has been going through my head. I did not sleep well last night because I don't want to make this video too in-depth. Because if you're building power supplies or any kind of radio, you should already have one of these transformers. That's where I'm at. You bring something to the table. You do some experiments. You don't sit off to the side. Well, can you wire me up one? I went through all that where I worked with the TV decoders. The guys with the biggest big mouths never got theirs working. And it's hilarious stuff. And then the one guy was actually working off to the side and wiring up the TV adapters for the bosses and that, and doing other techs' work. And the other techs are out in the other room bragging. And then finally I talked to this guy. His name was Eddie. He says, I built that guy's unit for him. He's an idiot. And then I questioned me. Boy, did he get quiet. He got nervous. I said, you didn't build that decoder. I said, stop telling everybody how easy it is. You had Ed do it for you. Yeah, I've been through so much in my life, and it's because I put myself out there. That's the problem. All right? In life, you keep quiet. You don't tell anybody what you know. Because when you do that, your idea becomes their idea. And then the people that want the idea, they don't care who's telling them it. They're not going to stick up for you. They're not going to help you. They just want cheap Chinese goods. They don't care how they get here. They just want cheap Chinese goods. They don't care if Americans lose jobs. The only time they care is when they lose their job. Then they care. I think that's it. All right, that's it.